Welcome to Charter Local Edition. I'm Tracy Young. Our guest is Dr. Gay Hendricks. He's the author of the New York Times best-selling book, The Big Leap, which outlines the 4 areas that prevent people from achieving their full potential, but provides ways that you can overcome these obstacles to reach the zone of genius. Nice to have you with us, Doctor.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Well, you mentioned for me, in your book, you kind of talk about how a lot of people operate on a daily basis and how that's different. How do most of us operate daily?
Well, we've worked with about 20,000 people, my wife and I, and one of the things that people tell us after they've done some of the work is that they feel like they've awakened from a kind of a semi-bad dream they've been in. And for a lot of us, I think life is like being inside a dream that we don't have much control over, but it's not that great a dream. And so one of the things that we talk a lot about is how to wake up from that kind of trance that many of us get into where we're not using our full potential.
So speak about successful people. What kind of level or how do they operate that's different than other people?
There's one big factor, and that is openness to learning. Many people, when something new comes their way, say, or...
They retract or repel?
They retract. And one thing I've noticed from working with really successful people is they kind of reach out for learning to say, what can I learn next that will make me a better person? What can I learn next that will contribute more to my relationships?
Speak about something called the upper limits. What are those upper limits?
Well, the upper limit is our tendency to sabotage ourselves by when we move up to a higher level in life where things are going well, we're happier, we're making more money, we're feeling more love. We'll often do something to mess up and bring ourselves back down to a lower level of positive energy. And so that's what I call the upper limit problem, because all of us have it in there to a certain extent. And what we need to do is move ourselves through that upper limit so that we can live in that zone of genius.
When we speak about people who are successful, you're not just focusing on people who've achieved financial success. There's another side to that that makes us have this well-rounded life. What is that?
Well, I appreciate you bringing it up, because one of the things my wife and I always tell people that are working with us is that there's just as much value in making a transcendently good soup as there is in writing a transcendently good symphony, because all of us have different things that we can do. You know, I'm never going to be a ballerina, for example.
No one's going to recruit me to play in the NFL. I hear you.
Yeah, so given that, you need to ask yourself, what is my zone of genius? What is it that I feel like I'm really here to do? What is it that I feel called to express within myself?
So, as somebody sitting here watching this, we hope, I noticed that your book is really interesting because you have a small, basically, fish pot. They're jumping into the large one. How do we actually leap into that zone of genius so that we're living in a different life that's unique to us, so we're basically just tapping into what our natural potential is?
Well, the very first part of any kind of big self-change process always begins with commitment. So what I invite people to do first is to make a commitment to living in your zone of genius, even if you don't know what that is. In fact, I think it's important to make a commitment to it even without knowing what your zoning...
So you're sort of committing to a philosophy of thinking differently?
Yes. What would open me up to being able to express my highest potential here? What would help me find my inside edge and bring it out so that people can appreciate it?
And then I guess the next thing is then actually getting down to those areas and finding out what the specific obstacle is, and then how do you overcome those? Well,
they fall into 4 categories. Many of us are afraid to go to our full potential because we're afraid of outshining someone else. Maybe it's a long ago brother or sister, or maybe it's somebody right now. Many of us are also afraid to go to our full level of success because we're afraid if we do that, it will expose fundamental flaws that we feel we have inside of ourselves. So we just have to look and see what we can find.
Right, so this is really about just discovering basically what's inside of us and achieving the best we can with sort of what God gave us.
Absolutely.
Coming to our full potential. All right, thank you so much for being with us, Doctor. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you very much.
For Charter Local Edition, I'm Tracy Young. Now back to CNN HLN.
Hi everybody, it's Peter Dills, host of The Chef Knows, getting ready to go on the road again. I have an invitation for you to join me on Charter Communications Video on Demand. I explore the very best in food and drink that Southern California has to offer. You'll discover in each program a variety of different restaurants to fit everyone's budget, and even get tips on tipping. Plus, you'll never know who we're going to run into when you watch The Chef Knows. So join me on Charter Communications Video on Demand for a wining and dining restaurant experience.